Hi, I'm Sabine, the Purpose Lawyer. Thank you for listening. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to this podcast. It really goes a long way. It helps us spread the good word. And if you or anybody you know is in the market for legacy or estate planning or business or trademarks, please reach out to our firm. It's the Ambitious Legacy Firm. We are licensed in New York and New Jersey, but we have service partners in all states. So we'd love to work with you. Asset protection, legacy planning, trademarks. We got you. All right. So it's theambitiouslegacyfirm.com. Now let's get into the episode. Welcome to another episode of the Ambitious Legacy Podcast. I'm your host, Sabine, the Purpose Lawyer. Thank you for listening and thank you for helping me be on purpose. So today I want to talk about a quick scenario of, why you need to sometimes think beyond those who you want to benefit from your estate, like your children, your loved ones. What happens if they're not around? It typically tends to be one of the hard questions to answer when I'm dealing with clients because they're like, oh, I didn't think about that. You just assume everybody's going to be here, but we're planning for people's, potential demise. And so that means other people in their lives can have that same scenario. We just don't know, right? So we can't plan for every single scenario and be, crazy with it, but we can plan for at least 2 levels deep, right? We want to know what's going to happen because we tend to find a lot of issues where no one thought about the next level. Maybe they didn't think about the first level, but certainly didn't think about the next level. And we find all these issues that come up. So I'm going to tell you this story. It may sound odd, but you'll be surprised. This kind of stuff happens all the time, right? So there's a story about a man who owned 50% of a property with his grandfather. And I believe the reason why that happened is because the grandfather probably was struggling and added him to the property some years ago, right? And so he owned 50%. And so that as tenants in common. So that means if one of them passed away, their half will go to their loved ones. And so the grandfather, unfortunately, passed away. And so the grandfather's half went to the man's uncle and father. And then the father passed away. So the father's share now will go to him, right? But now he owns it with his uncle. And this is where it sort of gets tricky. This is where we see a lot of issues where we have aunts and nieces and nephews or uncles and nieces and nephews. That's where we tend to see things butt head and they're like, you're a child. I was here first. That was my parents' property or that was my parents' asset. I am entitled. And I get why they have more of a sense of entitlement, but it's not so, right? You got to plan if that's what you want. And so the uncle now is like, no, I should get 50% of this property because you already own 50%. So the other half is mine, right? You don't get to have your half plus another quarter. But that is not how it goes. So what happens is because that person, the grandson already owns their 50%, that's not even part of this equation. We're just talking about the 50% that's remaining. And because grandpa died, his portion goes to the 2 sons, the uncle and the father. And now that father's not here, that share goes to their heir and does not, the uncle is not entitled to it. So this now is going to create a situation for the family where they're going to have to go to court. The grandson's going to have to first get in his father's shoes. So he's going to have to open up his father's estate, deal with that, get authority to be over the estate, and then now going to have to go to court to open up for the grandfather's estate, right? And be able to now assert his rights for his property. But this is going to cost thousands of dollars, right? Unless the grandson can do it on his own and, and has the time and the attention to pay to be able to do all this back and forth, which is not likely because there is fighting. When things are all smooth and everybody agrees, that may be an option depending on the complexity. But when there's fighting, the courts are going to be like, you need representation. We're not going to be the ones, dealing with all of this nonsense. So it's going to cost a lot of money. So what could have happened, the solution to this would have been that granddad either left a will that says, I want my half to go to, my half of the property to go to whomever it is. And if let's say to my sons, and if one of my sons pass away, then to the other son, if that's what he wanted, right? Or to my grandchild. So it would have just been clear and there would have been no reason to really fight. the will would have still needed to go through court. However, it wouldn't have been so much of a fight, right? Or could have left his half in trust. You can leave half of a property. It doesn't have to be the whole portion. You could put half of assets in a trust and half not in a trust, right? Because he doesn't own the whole. But that's an option. He could have left his half in trust and said, hey, I wanted to go, either to both my sons, and if they're not there, then to the other, or to my grandchildren, or to someone else. It doesn't even matter. Whoever he wanted, as long as that would have been written and documented, it would have created a much smoother situation for this this person, this loved one. Something else I wanted to raise is that, the fact that the grandfather needed help and needed to deed over half of his property. And that's an assumption that I'm making. But even if that being the case, planning ahead of time could avoid these type of necessities because one, you could invest to be able to make sure that you can afford to, keep your asset in your early age, or you can have invest in insurance, and that insurance policy could allow you access to the cash value later on in life where you can actually receive a benefit. There are things like annuities where you can basically get an income over time. So there are ways, he could have took money out of the house, put it in an annuity, and got some, distributions. I'm not a financial advisor, but what I'm saying, I say that to say, when you plan, you actually not only get access to a professional, hopefully, like an attorney like me, who would also surround you with a team like a financial advisor, insurance person, to collaborate to make sure that we're covering this whole picture so that you're not left in a situation where you're scrambling in your latter days where you're trying to relax somewhere and mind your business. So hope this information was helpful to you. Tell a friend to tell a friend, and I'll see you next time.